It's that's quite sad. Um, you told us a little bit about the Jimmy Lai story, but how does this fellow go from living on the floor of a factory where he was working for dirt wages to becoming a billionaire in over what time period? Like I don't know how old Jimmy Lai is today, for instance, things like
Yeah, well, actually, even he doesn't exactly know how old he is because of the chaos.
that.
We think he was born in 1947 or 48, certainly. But yeah, great question. I mean, his story, as I hinted at before, it's really the story of Hong Kong. He escapes this, just tumultuous chaos in China. The family's ripped apart. Father leaves. Mother ends up in and out of kind of prison labor camps. Jimmy and his two young sisters or their kids are like 6 years old and they're left to fend for themselves. Jimmy's this street hustler. He's picking up half smoked cigarettes and re-rolling them and selling them as singles and working as a porter in the railway station. He makes his way first to the Portuguese colony of Macau and then smuggles himself across the Pearl River Delta to Hong Kong. Again, he's sleeping on the floor of the factory, worked hard. I mean, he's a primary school dropout, but he's one of the most brilliant people I ever met. I mean, he's self-taught, but he's quick on his feet, just an incredible mind. 15 years after he's arrived in Hong Kong and he's sleeping on the factory floor, he owns a factory. And in 5 years later, it's the biggest sweater maker in Hong Kong, if not in Asia. He's selling to places like the Limited. He's coming up with ideas that will cut manufacturing cycle times from 5 months to 5 weeks, which if you're running a limited, that's gold, right? And it means you can get stuff to market faster. You're not stuck with unwanted inventory. Bam, bam, bam. Somebody told me at the limited told me I built my first house from Jimmy Lai's particular shirt that Jimmy did. He was great at getting around rules and regulations legally, but he would figure out ways around the U.S. textile quotas, and I mean, probably be having a field day with the tariff situation now, but and he got bored with making sweaters, so he set up a retail shop. It was kind of the pace setter for what became the fast fashion movement. I'm sure many people watching and listening to this program know about Uniqlo, the great
Yes.
Japanese clothing company. The founder of Uniqlo came down to learn from Jimmy, and gives him a lot of credit for the whole business model. Now, Tadashi Yanai of Uniqlo, he's a builder, he's a systematic guy. Jimmy's an entrepreneur. He's just always crackling with another idea, gets bored, goes on to the next thing. So he set up the most successful Pan-Asian retailer in the 1980s. Cheap prices, good quality, colorful clothes. And he was actually about to go into fast food. He wanted to do something similar, a bit like Chipotle did, later on in the 90s.
Yes.
He wanted to do that for Chinese fast food. And then history intervened, fate intervened. We had the Tiananmen Square uprising of 1989 when, hundreds of thousands, millions of people in China came out in support of democracy, against corruption, against the Chinese Communist Party's monopoly on power. And Jimmy, who had not been politically involved, had kind of turned his back on China, was so smitten by just so moved by the students' example that he started selling T-shirts with the students' faces on them in his Giordano clothing stores, sent the money up to Beijing, sent tents and other material up. And after the Tiananmen killings in June 4th, 1989, when hundreds, maybe even thousands of Chinese were killed by their own government, mowed down, cold blood, Jimmy said, I'm going into the media business because communism, this is before the collapse of the Berlin Wall, very interesting, before the fall of the Soviet Union, said communism is finished. New media, things like CNN and satellite television were new. It was 1989 when we first saw the power of TV images to show images in real time. Jimmy first set up a magazine, then a newspaper. These were all over. They had horse racing, they had paparazzi, they had stock market tips, they had Nobel Prize winning economists, but they always had a focus on democracy. So Jimmy set the magazine up in 1990, set up Apple Daily in 1995, the newspaper. Think about it. It's 2 years before the Chinese are about to take over. All of his fellow publishers are running for cover. Jimmy's like, I've got a business opportunity. Hong Kong people want democracy. They'll buy my paper. And they did. And as the years went on, the paper and Jimmy became more and more closely intertwined with the pro-democracy movement. So by the time the crackdown came, he was enemy number one, and he's been in prison now for, I guess, about 1,600 days since the end of 2020. He's mostly in solitary confinement. Think about that, 23 plus hours in a windowless cell. He's a devout Catholic who hasn't been able to receive communion for more than 2 years. This is I guess the third Easter he hasn't gotten communion. He's being held in, very, very tough conditions. He's been convicted on multiple sham charges, and now he's I guess kind of coming to the end of the big trial, the national security law trial. It's probably going to see this guy in his late 70s get a minimum of a 10-year sentence, which is basically a life sentence, but they could give him 50 years, they could give him life. It seems that the Chinese Communist Party has decided that they've got to silence Jimmy Lai.
Well, hopefully we will see a surprise prisoner swap. A lot of times that the communist governments, Russia did this recently. They made a big deal out of sentencing an American to the ballerina was sentenced to 10 years because she donated $50 to Ukrainian charity. I don't even know how they knew that, is what makes it entertaining for me. But in any event, after they sentenced her and made a big deal out of it, of course, they did a very highly publicized prisoner swap just a couple of weeks ago. And hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed that something similar will happen for Jimmy Lai. This is Dr. David D. Schein. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Saving America. Remember, a new Saving America show is aired on the Brushwood Media Network every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Listen on any of the 16 network stations, Apple or Google mobile app, Apple CarPlay, TuneIn, Smart Speaker, and all smart TVs. Find more information at the brushwoodmedianetwork.com. Please be sure to join us each week. We welcome and love your feedback from our growing audience.